Welcome to the Gutsy Granny, and I'm Deborah. And in these segments, I'm interviewing my beautiful girlfriend, Kate Dubois, who is Kate Dubois at the Trigger Coach. Last week, we spoke about conscious manifesting, which is very interesting. And kinesiology, she asked my body. So go back and watch that one because that's an interesting one about consciously manifesting. This week, we're going to touch on a really interesting subject, which is conscious relationships, which is something that most people don't go into a relationship consciously wanting to work at the relationship. I've seen Kate firsthand live a conscious relationship with her now husband and how they created this incredibly honest, unattached. How else would you describe your relationship with Rob?
I would say, just open and honest and vulnerable. Yeah.
But at the same time, being totally committed and a couple, but retaining their individuality. And that didn't happen by chance. That's happened through consciously and very, the communication and very...
conscious communication.
Yeah, but it's more than, it's courageous. Yeah. Very courageous communication where both of them had to drop their masks, and let's see how you do it. So thanks for being here, Kate.
Thanks for inviting me, Deb. I love talking about conscious relationships because I came from a relationship, a 27-year marriage, where at least my responsibility in that marriage, when I look back on that time, I wasn't fully conscious in that place. Or in that relationship. So I've had to do a lot of deep diving since I left 4 years ago and really see what was my responsibility in why things went wrong and why we ended a 27-year relationship. From my part, being really vulnerable and open and honest with myself and taking full responsibility for my part was super important. And I think that, then understanding the limiting beliefs that I'd had about myself that had kind of led to the demise over the years of our relationships. So if I could give you an example, I had a limiting belief that I wasn't heard. I was the youngest in a family of 6 people, and I was often told to be quiet, to shut up. And I actually used to feel quite small. I remember feeling so small that I was scared that the family would step on me like giants and crush me. And so I never used my voice very often. And so I had a limiting belief in that relationship that I actually had a voice and that I was able to say when things weren't really working for me. And so I went for many, many years not actually speaking my truth and saying what it is that I needed for myself. So first and foremost, I think if you're going to enter into a conscious relationship, you need to enter into a conscious relationship with yourself. And you need to be really honest about all of the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself and about your level of responsibility in any past relationships that you've had, because often we walk away from relationships and it's so much easier just to blame the other person.
So give us an example, Kate,
of blaming the other person.
Can you give us an example that's not overly personal that was in your
in
marriage?
My previous marriage? Well, yeah. I guess that example that I didn't feel heard. I felt like I was saying what was important to me sometimes. I felt like I was brave enough to say it sometimes, but what was happening, it wasn't being reflected back to me. When I came away from the relationship and sat with myself for a good 12 months and cried and went deep inside, I realized that I actually had all of these limiting beliefs about myself. I felt that I wasn't worthy of love. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like nobody respected me. I understood that I didn't actually respect myself. I also had a limiting belief that my voice was heard and that I had something to say. So apart from that, there were probably another 100 or so limiting beliefs that I had. But it was really necessary for me to be able to see that what was being reflected to me was not really being caused by my ex-husband, but more about my beliefs about myself. So once I was able to do the work on myself and get out of the way, then it cleared a pathway to be able to have a new conscious relationship with another partner.
Just on that point, you said that a couple of times in the last interview before. You've cleared the way to get out.
Get out of your way.
Explain more simply, because it just seems like, okay, you're just going to turn left instead of right.
Okay. So getting out of your way means that you need to understand fundamentally that the world is happening for you, not to you. And that every single person that shows up in your life, whether it be your mother, your father, sister, brother, boyfriend, girlfriend, CEO, boss, every single person that shows up in front of you and seemingly pokes you is there to offer you a healing, And so if you're in a relationship and somebody is irritating you or causing a disruption in your peace, what we normally do is we blame that person. And so we, over time, build up a defense, and everything that they do irritates us. And so eventually we get enough of, soldiers in our army to say, okay, it's good enough, it's time to leave.
Okay,
right?
so let's throw in a gnarly topic. Let's just role play here. Mm-hmm. So let's say, and this didn't happen in your marriage, but okay, so let's say the wife or the husband have cheated, right? Unfaithfulness.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other person is obviously going to feel very hardly done by, and society's going to go, oh, that person's a cheater and they've cheated on his wife, and so therefore blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. How do you then consciously unwrap that one?
Well, I think number one, it's just my belief, I could be wrong, that nobody goes off and cheats for no reason. So something is going on with that person at the time, the cheater, and whether it's part of their limiting belief about themselves or a past trauma, there is something going on with them. Quite separate to that, there is something going on with the person that has been cheated on as well. Because clearly those two people aren't able to vibrationally match at that time. So I don't think it's really useful to go into a blame situation, because there is a level of responsibility for both people. If you were both there, I used to say this to my children, if you're there in the playground and someone's being bullied, you have a level of responsibility if you witnessed it. Now, it's really up to the individual how much of that percentage of that responsibility they want to take. If someone's being bullied and you're standing in that circle and you don't say anything, you have a level of responsibility. And in my mind, you have a fairly high level of responsibility to step up and to support somebody who's being victimized.
But isn't it their journey to go through that bullying? So aren't you then, this is probably a whole different topic. I was very severely bullied, and to the point where they had to pull me out of the school. I could go on about horror stories, and nobody stood up for me. It was in the 60s, early 60s, where bullying just, I was just a bad person. It was always my fault. But my journey was that I had to go through that in order to find the resilience and,
100%.
Yeah,
so bully never bullies the strongest person in the playground, because they're going to get a whack across the ears. Yeah. They always bully the most vulnerable one. So they bullied you because you didn't think you were worthy. They bullied you because you didn't think you were enough. So you do have a level of responsibility. So whether or not you want to go back to the soul journey and see if that is why, or if it started at birth or there's been some sort of trauma, 100% you had a particular role in that interaction. And the moment that you chose to see yourself as being good enough, then the bullying would stop. So the same thing in conscious relationships. We have to stop extending the blame to the other person. We need to be sovereign in ourselves within that relationship. And I would suggest for everyone that when they turn up into a relationship, that they have at least deep love and respect for themselves. And that they put themselves first, because we are the most important person in the world. if our cup is full and we are feeling enriched with love and devotion for ourselves, then we can extend that out to other people generously, and we never ever feel depleted. But if we're coming from a place of lack of love and trust and everything for ourselves, then we will not be able to offer that up to other people. And when we do offer it up, we'll feel exhausted.
So give us an example, again, if it's not too personal. How do you and Rob deal with conflict?
Okay, so we have really great ways of communicating with each other. If Rob says something that triggers me, I say to him, honey, I'm feeling really triggered. It's not you, it's me. I'll get back to you. And I go away and I sit and I think about it and I try to work out where that trigger came from. For sure, he didn't do anything to me. So nobody does anything to us.
Okay, so
we do everything to ourselves.
So he's come in the room, he's thrown his clothes down, he's in an angry mood, he grouches at you, and of course you're going to be triggered. He goes, whatever. And then you go, well, fuck you.
Well, I try not to do that. I try to catch myself now and I say, okay, your behavior just really triggered me. It wasn't anything that you just did. It's something that I need to go and work on.
Even if his behavior is out of line.
If he's losing his shit somewhere, why would it worry me unless I thought that I caused it? Or if I thought that I'd done something to deserve it. And when you really love yourself and you're in that place of complete
I just got the tingles. I got the tingles.
Then you don't need to buy into anybody else's bullshit. You are like solid, rock solid.
Okay, so let's play around with this. So let's just assume now that you feel that there may have been something that you did. You parked your bike in his car, and whatever, doesn't matter. That there was something that you may have done that could have... So there was a doubt in your mind that you may have been the cause of his...
Okay, so I would say something like, you're looking fairly, irritated at the moment, just so I get a better understanding. Is it something that I've done? And he might go, yeah, it's, you parked your bike in the wrong spot. And I'm going, okay, so what I hear is I parked my bike in the wrong spot. Is that right? And often just going through that process with people and having that sort of gentle, loving exchange in a conversation, rather than... So 100%, when someone attacks us, the first response usually is to attack back.
But how do you create that pause button? Because I struggle with the pause button, particularly if I'm attacked head on.
Knowing that nobody ever does anything to you, you do it all to yourself.
Oh.
Every single time.
Oh, that's a toughie.
Every time. Toughie. The world is happening for you, not to you.
I think we have to explore this one more. That's a real toughie, because that's mirroring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's going to be our next topic, guys.
Mirroring is great.
Mirroring, I'm still trying to get my head around that one. It's a really tricky one. Now, what was this book you wanted to...
This book is Gay Hendricks and Kathleen Hendricks, and they talk about co-commitment and codependency. So codependency looks like someone with many limiting beliefs about themselves, and that is in a very needy sort of position, where co-commitment is that you're both sovereign beings and you come together as a couple and try not to undermine each other's sovereignty.
And I have to say, being a friend of both Rob and Kate's now for quite some time, they actually live what they breathe. I find it fascinating to see such a committed couple also being incredible individuals. Neither of them live in each other's pockets, yet they're very loving and committed to the relationship. I don't know. It's one of the first really conscious relationships that I've ever witnessed, because certainly I was never in one when I was married, and my parents certainly didn't have conscious relationships like yours probably didn't either. But again, these little interviews are just snippets. Please get in contact with Kate. She's running really interesting workshops. She's developing her platform to help you. She's going to be developing longer YouTube programs where she can dive more thoroughly and give you more tools. These are just little snippets to get you excited and sort of get into the juicy bits of Kate. So thank you for joining us. Please press subscribe and join to both of us.
Deb.
And we'll see you on the other side next week. Lots of love, and thank you, Kate. I forgot to kiss you the last time.
Thank you.